Good morning, students. Today's topic is atrophic rhinitis. It is a chronic inflammatory nasal mucosal disease of unknown etiology, characterized by progressive atrophy of nasal mucosa and turbinate bones, associated with greenish yellow crust formation, gloominess of nasal cavity, and characteristic foul smelling feature. Another name of this disease is ozena, called by Dr. Spence Wilson in 1875 first. Atrophic rhinitis is of two types. Number one is primary, where it is also called idiopathic atrophic rhinitis. As primary cause is not known, the incidence of primary atrophic rhinitis has decreased markedly in the last century, probably due to increased use of antibiotics for chronic nasal infection. Number two is secondary. It occurs secondary to some known pathological cause like tuberculosis, syphilis, leprosy, etc. Secondary atrophic rhinitis may also result from trauma, surgery, granulomatous diseases, infection, and radiation exposure in majority of cases. As we have discussed, exact cause is unknown, but there are various theories regarding causation. Number one is hereditary and racial influence. A strong family history and hereditary influence has been reported where autosomal dominant inheritance pattern has been proposed by Seward and Batson in 1980. Number second is endocrinological imbalance. So, in endocrinal imbalance, disease starts at puberty, involves females more, aggravates with menstruation and pregnancy, and tends to cease after menopause. So these factors raises the possibility of endocrinal disorder. Number three is nutritional deficiency. Due to deficiency of vitamin A, D, or iron, or some other dietary factors, patients are usually seen in low socioeconomic group. Number of cases are now much less as people improve taking nutritional diet in our country also. Number 4, infective. This is primary atrophic rhinitis is almost always associated with a single organism, that is Klebsiella ozeni. Other organisms cultured are diphtheroids, Proteus vulgaris, Escherichia coli, Staphylococcus, Streptococcus, but they are all considered to be secondary invaders responsible for foul smelling. Number 5 is surfactant deficiency. Significant change in the phospholipid profile in the nasal aspirate has been found, which suggests a possible role for surfactant deficiency reported by Said et al. In 2000. Number 6 is autonomic disease. Cellular hypersensitivity detected in 90% of cases associated with a decrease in the absolute number of T lymphocytes, altered cellular reactivity or loss of tolerance to nasal tissues may be precipitated primarily by virus infection, malnutrition, and immunodeficiency, which trigger a destructive autoimmune process. With the release of antigens of nasal mucosa into the circulation. Now come to pathology. So here ciliary columnar epithelium is lost and is replaced by stratified squamous type. There is atrophy of seromucinous glands, venous blood sinusoids, and nerve elements. Arteries in the mucosa, periosteum, and bone show obliterative periarteritis and endarteritis. The bone of turbinates undergoes resorption, causing widening of nasal chambers. Paranasal sinuses are small due to arrested development. So, atrophic rhinitis are of two types pathologically. Type 1, it is associated with endarteritis and periarteritis, and type 2 associated with vasodilatation of capillaries with increased alkaline phosphatase activities that leads to bone resorption and rumination of the nasal cavity and crusting. Now symptoms. So this is characteristic. Here there is characteristic offensive smell, that is ozina, perceived by others near the patient, making the patient social outcast, though patient is unaware of the smell due to marked anosmia, called as merciful anosmia, which accompanies degenerative changes. Then anosmia or hyposmia. So it is due to atrophy of the olfactory receptors. Nasal blockage occurs due to large crusts, though the nasal cavity are roomy. Here is the nasal cavity is roomy, but due to large crust, there is nasal obstruction or blockage. Then come to discharge. It is greenish yellow, thick tenacious discharge. Epistaxis may be due to dislodgement of the crusts. Cough or hoarseness of voice, it may be associated with atrophic laryngitis. Then hearing impairment due to Eustachian tube blockage leading to middle ear infusion. That examination. Nasal cavity found full of greenish or grayish black large crusts which bleeds on removal. After removal of crusts, there is roomy nasal cavity with atrophy of turbinates, pale nasal mucosa, perforation of septum, and dermatitis of nasal vestibule. Saddle deformity of nose may be present. Posterior laryngeal wall may be dry and glazed with crusts. Now come to investigations. Complete blood picture, serum protein and iron estimation should be done. X-ray, PNS and CT shows mucoperiosteal thickening of the paranasal sinuses. Structural changes of osteomeatal complex secondary to resorption of the ethmoidal bulla and uncinate process. Then hypoplasia of the maxillary sinuses. Then enlargement of the nasal cavities with erosion and bowing of the lateral nasal wall. Bony resorption and mucosal atrophy of middle and inferior turbinates. These are the findings you can see in CT scan of PNS and nose. Then nasal swab. It is done to rule out infective granulomatous condition caused by acid fast bacillus. Then X-ray chest to rule out tuberculosis. Serological tests done for syphilis and other granulomatous diseases. And lastly, nasal biopsy. This is very important to know the pathology related with the atrophic rhinitis. So far, treatment of the atrophic rhinitis is concerned. Complete cure of the disease is not possible. The disease may persist for years, but there is a tendency to recover spontaneously in middle age. The aim of treatment is to maintain nasal hygiene by removal of crusts and putrefying smell and to check further crusts formation. The treatment is medical or surgical. First, medical treatment. So, warm water, normal warm water saline or alkaline nasal irrigation, in which 1 TSF of alkaline powder, in which 1 part sodium bicarbonate, 1 part sodium biborate, and 2 part sodium chloride is dissolved in 280 ml of water. This is used for irrigating nasal cavities 2 to 3 times a day. Later, once in 2 to 3 days. It is sufficient to remove the crusts by softening the crusts and thick tenacious discharge, that is also softened by this irrigation. Hard crusts are removed with the help of forceps or even suction. Enteral wash is difficult in these cases due to thick and underdeveloped sinus walls. Number 2 is 25% glucose in glycerin. So application of this solution helps in removal of crusts. It also inhibits the growth of proteolytic organisms responsible for foul smelling. Number 3 is antibiotic. Spraying the nose with appropriate antibiotic helps to eliminate secondary infection. A combination of chlorphenicol, estradiol, and vitamin D2, that is chemistine enteoxina solution, was very much effective but abandoned nowadays. Number 4 is systemic use of streptomycin. So 1 gram per day for 10 days has given good results in reducing crust and odor. It is effective against Klebsiella also. Then estradiol spray used to increase vascularity of nasal mucosa and degeneration of the submucinous glands. Another is placental extract. Injection of placental extract submucosally in nose also give much relief. Potassium iodide given orally promotes and liquefies nasal secretions also. Now, surgical treatment. So, number one is Young's operation. Both the nostrils are closed completely by raising flaps. Nasal mucosa may revert to normal with reducing of crusts. The nostrils are opened again after about 6 months or later. Number two is modified Young's operation. In this, nostrils are closed partially to avoid the discomfort of nasal obstruction as in Young's operation. So a small opening of 3 millimeter is left for breathing in this modified Young's operation. Number three is narrowing of nasal cavities. So this helps in decreasing the crusts. Submucosal intranasal injection of Teflon paste is given. Number four is Lautenschlager's operation with bone or cartilage. So under the mucoperiosteum of the floor and lateral wall of the nose and the mucochondrium of the septum has been implanted in the past to reduce excessive rheuminess in the nasal cavity with limited success. At implantation, over inferior turbinate has been tried to reduce the size of nasal cavity. Then stellate ganglion block. This may be done to increase nasal secretion. Then Stensen's duct reimplantation with maxillary sinus. Also, it is done in the past with limited success. This is all about in brief about the atrophic rhinitis, but similar condition also is occurring in rhinitis sicca. So we should know something about rhinitis sicca also. So what is rhinitis sicca? It is also a crust forming disease in patients who work in hot, dry and dusty atmospheres, are mostly found in bakers, iron and goldsmiths, where condition is confined to the interior third of the nose, particularly of nasal septum. The ciliary columnar epithelium undergoes a squamous metaplasia with atrophy of seromucinous glands. Removal of crusts from the interior part of the septum causes ulceration, nosebleed, and even septal perforation. The treatment is patients are instructed to correct occupation, and use of mask and filters. Application of antibiotics, steroid ointments gives good result. Nasal dose helps in softening the crushes. Patient advised to avoid nose picking and forceful removal of crushes. Thank you very much.